Welcome to the Intuitive Health Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Anthony Rafferty, a medical doctor, a PhD, Reiki, and shamanic intuitive healer. I'm here to bring you on a journey of holistic healing that explores the science of the physical body, combined with mental and emotional well-being, energetic and spiritual health. And I am so glad to have you here with me. Another week under our belt, another 2 weeks. And continuing to go deeper and deeper and deeper into our energetic journey, into our shadow self, and, transcending and transmuting these lower vibrational energies into light. Because if we do not need more light in this world at the moment, I don't know what we will be doing. There is just such a need to shine as brightly as possible and to allow our magic to flow and to bring about some lightness to the depths of the dark and heavy energy that's going on at the moment. So I've been spending the last couple of weeks really going deep into the solar plexus, and I really wanted to go even deeper this week by exploring what self-worth and value looks like. And I really wanted to do this in the context of introducing you to, I suppose, the concept of the magic that you innately hold within the body. And I think as we've gone on a journey with the energy medicine course that Becky and I are running at the moment, we ran a workshop or a half-day retreat last week specifically around worth and value. And it was just so beyond powerful. It was just such a magical experience, but it was beautiful to kind of hear how people related to their own sense of self-worth and related to their sense of value. And I really do think that these things, these aspects of who we are the foundation of living authentically. And when we can go on a deeper journey with self-worth and value, we can be able to express our magic in the world around us in a really aligned and authentic way. I was reflecting deeply on this as I was kind of preparing this podcast episode, because I was thinking about what my own journey with self-worth and value has looked like. And I think it's tricky in some senses because, and I'll speak into it at a later date with regard to, sometimes people cross our path, or we end up in environments, even working environments or whatever that might be for you, in which people strip us of our worth. And, they kind of suppress or kind of project things upon us that we then suppress our magic. And I really wanted to go on a deep journey into kind of exploring what self-worth really is, and how to believe in your magic, how to spot when environments begin to strip you away from your magic, and how to reclaim and protect your magic, that beautiful sense of intrinsic self-worth that exists within you. And I think it's just so important for all of us to recognize that we are all innately magic. A magic and a light and a divine power exists within all of us. And I think I've become so deeply entangled on my shadow journey and in my psychotherapy and in my own healing practices. I ended up kind of going deep into this journey with the egoic mind. And I really wanted to make sure that, I wasn't making any decisions from an egoic space. And I wanted to be, going deep into my fears and all of these things that actually at one point, not too long ago, I tried so desperately to rid myself of all of my egoic thinking that I just stopped believing in the magic that existed within me. And this can have such a huge impact on us. And, everybody is going to approach this in a really, really different way, depending on who you work with. But one of the cornerstones or the keystone journeys that I bring my clients on are to really anchor in the belief that they are intrinsically or innately magic by birthright. And that's really what I want everybody to come away with today, is how to remember that, and, to really identify when people or places may be stripping you of that. So I just want to explore a little bit with regards to the roots of self-worth. And I really want to clarify a difference between what self-esteem is and self-worth is. So self-esteem is how we feel about ourselves based on our external validation sources. So I spoke into some of this last week with regard to titles and roles. And this very much is linked to the solar plexus energy. But, self-esteem is a journey of kind of external validation in relation to what potentially success looks like, how we look, do people approve of us in various aspects of our life. And that's essentially what self-esteem is, which is actually different from self-worth. And self-worth is thrown around so much in social media these days. Everybody's like on a journey of self-worth. But what does it mean? It actually is intrinsic and unconditional value that simply just exists within you. It, like, this intrinsic kind of sense of self-worth and this unconditional value that exists within you exists simply because you exist. You actually being here on this crazy big planet that's hurtling through space at some ridiculous speed. The fact that you're here is literally a magical miracle. And, it's about kind of remembering that. Now, I just want to talk about some childhood cultural and ancestral influences that actually impact that. So what I tend to see in some of my clients is that some of us grow up needing to be the good boy or the good girl, and some of us also go on a journey of what love and approval looks like. And sometimes that only comes in relationship to achievement and responsibility. So we're getting pulled into the self-esteem bracket here, where our kind of feeling about ourselves is linked to this, and that's kind of entangled in love and approval. And it's really hard to tease all of these energies out when we're young and haven't got a clue about it. But I love that you're on this journey and you're teasing out what all of these things actually mean. So kind of going back a couple of weeks now, we kind of explored the energy of responsibility. Last week, we talked about kind of validation and the roles and the titles and how they impacted our journey with our sense of self. And, and this week we're looking at kind of the wound in some senses of whether responsibility and achievement were entangled within our sense of love and approval. So essentially, this is kind of another facet of that, in which our conditioning essentially told us that our sense of worth must be earned. And, from an energetic perspective, what does this look like within us? Well, I tend to see two major energy centers are impacted by these childhood experiences. And that's the solar plexus energy, where we hold all of our power. And I've recorded podcast episodes on what it looks like to kind of journey with control and powerlessness, what responsibility looks like. And that's all energetics linked specifically to this solar plexus energy, in which we hold our power, in which we hold our sense of self-worth. So I love that we've been teasing all of these things out, getting a deeper understanding of all of these threads and these different vibrations and frequencies, which greatly impact the solar plexus. And at the root of all of these tends to be our worth. Now, the other energy center I tend to see that's actually impacted by these wounds is the heart chakra. Oh, our beautiful heart that generally ends up with lots of protection and often walls erected around the beautiful heart chakra. But essentially, that's where we hold the energy of love and our energy of kind of whether we are worthy of love for ourselves, or potentially that external energy of what unconditional loves look like in the world around us. So when we have wounds within these spaces, essentially these wounds drive us to seek validation externally. But one thing I want to really, really highlight as we move through this podcast episode is that your worth is not conditional. It is absolutely not conditional. It's intrinsic. It exists within you. And it's for you to go on a journey to really uncover that and shed the wounding that is shadowing that. And for you to reclaim that, reclaim your worth. So, why do I talk about it in terms of magic? Well, I just love magic, first of all. I feel like we should live every day like it's magic. When we walk down the street, even a flower growing, or even just contact with another human, the fact that we get to be here as souls living this human existence in which we can experience all these human things, the full spectrum of human emotion, the pleasure, the joy, the sadness, the grief, all of it. You know, this world is magic. Nature is magic. You know, love is magic. Everything is just magic. But what actually is magic? I'm not speaking about it in in a fantastical kind of way, but it's actually your essence. And when I speak about the magic that exists within you, I'm talking about your intuition. I feel like our intuition is a message from God, from divine, from spirit. That is your higher self up in this beautiful white space, this spiritual space, communicating with you about your soul's journey. So the closer that you can listen to your intuition, the closer that you can actually be guided by your intuition about what feels right for you, rather than what you've been told is right, rather than what looks right on paper, rather than what you feel you should do. Be weird and magical and follow your intuition, because that is your soul, that is your higher self, that is literally the essence of the universe working through you to allow you to actually find your way as an individual and authentic and beautiful soul in this world that is here to do whatever you're here to do. You know, our magic works through us in our creativity as well. How we love, how we create, you know, and we have lost so much our connection to creativity. And I'm on such a journey with creativity at the moment. I'm re-engaging in my own creative flair by going on a journey with the artist's way. And it has been so beautiful. Now, I practice what I preach. I try to live very authentically in alignment with what I bring my clients on our journey with. But I've been really leaning into some of the tools which I wouldn't necessarily use all the time. And that has been my morning pages. And I get up every morning and I dump onto 3 pages every single morning. And oh my God, it has been so clarifying and amazing. And it's kind of re-engaging with this tool that I used very heavily some time ago, but I'd kind of stepped away from. And it's beautiful to come back to that. But in the artist's way, it's all about going on a journey with your creativity, because that's a form of divine expression, essentially. And yesterday I went out on my little artist's date. And so you do these artist's date with yourself every week as part of the 12-week journey through the artist's way. And I picked up all these beautiful paintings. Paints to paint with. And I realized, actually, I love usually drawing with pencil, and everything is black and white. And I only realized yesterday that I had been missing color in all of my art. I'd been missing color. And I went out and I bought all these acrylics, which I have always wanted to do. I've always wanted to use acrylic paints, but I didn't know how. And, you know, my perfectionist side was like, well, if you don't know how to do them, you might as well not start, you know. But yesterday I went out and just bought loads of them. And I was going like, I'm just going to sit down and just allow creative energy to flow through me. And to do it for the simple joy and the love of, and the knowledge that actually this beautiful magical energy is moving through me as I create. And it doesn't need to be perfect. It doesn't need to be seen by anybody else. It just needs to be me witnessing that creative energy as it moves through me. That is the magic that lives inside of you. And, you know, Rick Rubin wrote this fabulous book called The Art of Creation. And it kind of talks about how we create our world and just how magical a creation actually is. And he said, when you come here and allow creative force to move through you. It is a spiritual journey when you embody this kind of creative force within your life. And he said, when you can actually create from a space that is so aligned with what you think is beautiful in the world, not because you think you need to create it for somebody else, because you think it's beautiful, that is when we are at our peak creativity and channeling what we have come here to actually unleash in the world around us. So stepping away from creation as something you feel you need to do because you've a perception of how people want it, but actually because it just speaks to your soul. Isn't that so gorgeous? But other aspects of magic within our world are how we love, the healing journey we go on, and what our unique soul gifts are. And that's going to look different for absolutely everybody, you know? And I really, really have been on such a journey with this in the last wee while with regard to kind of how I allow my soul gifts to be seen in the world and what that looks like. And it's so interesting because as I go on a journey with this, even with the exploration of what roles and titles looked like last week, I realized some time ago that I probably sit beside or behind the role or the title of the doctor quite often because I feel like that's valued more greatly in society than my healer role. But what's quite fascinating, when I actually sit with it, when I sit with my guides, when I sit in meditation, you know, people are taught to be doctors. There are certain tools and pathways and processes that we use, but not everybody can do the healing that it moves through my body as a channel for whatever comes into each of these sessions. They are my unique soul gifts. They are the medicine that I bring. So it's so funny how we value what has been this structure that's been provided to us by a system in which multiple people can do the thing, but actually what's hiding behind what we've been told is valued by society is actually the true magic. So I'd love for you to kind of feel into that. What are your unique soul gifts? What can you do that other people can't? And the energetic feeling of believing in your magic feels expansive. It feels light and it feels expansive. And it carries a quiet confidence of, I am enough. I carry something unique inside of me. And this unique gift matters, you know? It's interesting, even just going back to the doctor versus the healer analogy. You know, I show up every single day as a healer and I allow spirit to work through me. The biggest issue that I have in my sessions is me getting in the way. So it's almost like you step out of the space to allow the light to move through you. Whereas from a doctoring space, what you're taught at all times in medical school and throughout your journey as a doctor is that you never know enough. So confidence is something that is very hard to grasp within the medical sphere. There's a lot of fear that operates within that space, you know? Now, how does doubt enter into this kind of concept of quiet confidence and expansive energy and this feeling of magic? Well, it enters in through messages in which we perceive that we are not enough or that we're too much. And how does that arise? That arises through comparison, through criticism, through things like dismissal. And that can have a huge, huge negative consequence on us because if we are in those circumstances, if we find ourselves being at the end of a comparative criticism, it makes us feel small, it makes us feel contracted, and we become hesitant to actually share our truth. And it's so fabulous. On the energy medicine course that we're running this week, we're recording everything to do with expression. And Becky and I have recently run, and it's still available to people online, the Awaken Your Voice course, which goes deep into kind of the wounds that prevent you from fully expressing your magic. So, you know, as we go deeper into identifying what your magic is, do you have wounds that block you from actually expressing it? Do you hide your gifts from fear of judgment? So these are all really important things. That's another energy center coming online, the throat chakra. in addition to your solar plexus and your heart. So, one thing I want to highlight is that your magic never leaves you, it just waits beneath the layers of doubt and fear and shame and guilt and all of these things. And as we move through our kind of identification and shedding of these layers, that magic and that light just radiates and grows. And when we work through kind of these fears around judgment and expression, we can allow it to fully take anchor into this world as we express ourselves in the most authentic and magical way as possible. Now, I wanted to touch into how to recognize when people or environments are stripping you of your magic. And some of the signs that I tend to say to people that would be good to kind of recognize if you're being drained of your magic is if, you're around certain people or when you're in certain places, do you constantly doubt yourself? Do you constantly doubt yourself? Do you shrink or silence parts of yourself? Do you feel you wear a facade or mask in some way? Do any of your ideas or your feelings or what you feel are your beautiful innate gifts, do they get dismissed? Are they undervalued? What does that all look like for you when you're with certain people or in certain environments, And do you leave certain people or environments feeling very heavy, feeling very uninspired, or disconnected from yourself? They are absolute telltale signs that certain people or certain environments are potentially shadowing or feeding into the wounds or stripping you from the beautiful innate magic that you have within you. So I just want to talk a little bit about how these things can actually occur. And people don't realize that they can either be overt, like you can end up in circumstances in which you're openly criticized or rejected in some way. And they are absolute, like, get the salt out, rub it in the wound in which you're not enough. So they're really open and direct messages that rub salt in the already existing wound. However, sometimes these circumstances or situations can be quite subtle. And this is something that can go on for some time and slowly erode us over many months and many years. And what does subtle stripping of worth actually look like? It looks like jokes that undermine you, workplaces that do not value you or what you bring, or potentially eggshell walking in relationships. Do you all walk on eggshells when you're with certain people in romantic or platonic relationships? So all really, really good things to look out for. And what I'd like to speak into are kind of energetic red flags in which you tune into your body when you're with these people, when you're in certain environments to see what's happening. Now, I find this fascinating. Because when I first started getting into energy medicine and really beginning to become deeply aware of my body, there were certain people that I was spending time with. And my energy actually felt like was shrink wrapping onto my body. I would pull all of my energy in, literally. There was no air within the energetic space. And it would suck onto my body. That's what it literally felt like. I felt like it was tight. I used to just go deep into my protection mode. And I used to get a tightness in my chest. My stomach used to churn in my solar plexus, a sense of heaviness. And some people I just came away from feeling so dimmed, like my inner sparkle and magic had just been drained away from me. So has your inner sparkle or magic been dimmed in association with anybody in particular or any environments that you've been in, And keeping in mind, I'm speaking into energetic red flags here and kind of symptoms that you may associate with energetic draining. But just like your energy can be drained, it can also be amplified. Those people or those places that you visit and you are literally buzzing when you leave them. Oh my God, they are like nectar for the soul. I just love that. I love going to visit certain sacred sites. And my friends, my soulmates, my family, my nieces and nephews, all of these things just nourish my soul. They amplify my magic. So that is the type of vibe you want to be around. That's the type of vibe. And sometimes we actually have to get really, really honest with ourselves, really honest with ourselves. And if we find that there are certain circumstances or people in our life that are draining our magic, how are you going to approach that? Is it time to let go of that energy? What does it all mean for you? Really challenge yourself to explore those things. Now, I want to speak a little bit about reclaiming and protecting your self-worth. So there's a couple of things that you can do when you go on a journey with worth. One of the tools that I love recommending, and one thing that I did recently, even for myself, was I sat down and I wrote a list of all of the mean things that I say to myself in relation to my worth. I wrote them all down and I went full on against myself in those moments because I wanted to really uncover what my quiet, what my quiet vitriolic energy was lurking in the background of my mind. So I gave myself permission to go there. And then what I did was, for every single comment that I wrote down in which my subconscious mind was villainizing my sense of worth, or stripping me of my own magic, I wrote a complete opposite comment in which I reclaimed that for myself. Once I had a big list of those, I then recorded on my phone, in my notes section, me in my own voice reading out every single one of those things so I could reclaim every single one of those affirmations, affirming that I was absolutely worthy. And every morning I play that and I love it because it's me telling me and the sound of my own voice. And I love that because it's almost like the sense of expression from my own throat chakra, hearing myself affirm to myself that I am worthy. And, all of these affirmations can be so, so fabulous. So, we are worthy simply because we exist here and our magic is so real. The world is magic. And I just think if we can reclaim that in some way, the world will be a completely different place. And that is a beautiful tool that I use to do it. I do think that as we go on a journey with ourselves, that obviously body reconnection is going to be so important. So things that ground your energy and, things that bring you into the body. I adore breath work. Obviously, it's such a powerful tool. Not everybody's going to resonate as deeply with it, but find something that brings you into your body. Potentially it's dancing, meditation, whatever that might be for you, I absolutely love journaling. Because it really helps me to go deep into kind of my thoughts, things that I maybe wouldn't sit with on the day to day, and maybe you'll consider after this episode where you're giving your value away. Who do you feel small around? What parts of you are you silencing? So these are all really cool little things that you can really sit and contemplate while you're on a journey with your magic internally. So generally speaking, what can you do energetically to strengthen your solar plexus? Well, usually what I recommend is obviously breathing light and fire into the solar plexus in some senses. Like I tend to see the solar plexus as a beautiful golden ball of sun, as sunshine that exists within everybody that they can radiate out into the world. So I tend to do really expansive, energetic cleansing with golden energy with my breath in that space. One thing I'd also recommend from an energetic perspective is to recognize where you're leaking energy. Where do you leak energy? Where in your life are you leaking energy because of a wound? And if you can identify where you have energy leaks, set some boundaries up for yourself so you're not leaking there anymore. Because I've previously recorded a podcast episode specifically on boundaries and what they look like, all the different types of boundaries we can have. And energetic boundaries are often a manifestation of our physical, mental, and emotional boundaries. So when you can identify where you're leaking energy or where you're leaky within any of those spaces, set up some nice boundaries for yourself to protect yourself. I've also spoken into in previous episodes practices like cord cuttings, or energy clearing from your own energy body or from space. We have some great kind of energetic hygiene practices up on our YouTube channel, and our energy hygiene podcast episode really went deep into that. I'd really practice kind of working with those tools to clear your energy after you've been with certain people or in places where you feel you've leaked or lost some of your power or that beautiful sparkly magic that exists within you. On the flip side of this, I'd love for you to identify where your positive environments are. Who are the positive people that you spend time with that actually see the real you and celebrate your magic. Go and be with them, surround yourself with amplifiers that amplify your magic and amplify all of these kind of feelings of worth and value within you, because they are truly precious. And some of these are going to be soul connections that you are here with on this crazy and magical journey as humans, in order for you to support each other in the remembering of the true magic that exists within you. So when you live from a place in which you have true connection to your sense of worth, and you recognize the magic that exists within you, you will see shifts in your world. You will see relationships changes. You will no longer accept anything in which you feel undervalued. So even thinking back to past relationships and partner choices and all of these things, what was your worth like in all of these circumstances? Are you in relationships right now in which you are undervalued? All really important things, because you want to live your best life while you're here. Like, life is short and precious, I tend to find that opportunities flow because your magnetism increases, our sense of worth, when that rises and we allow our magic to fully flood out into the world around us, we literally become magnetic. I absolutely love that. And, your presence expands, you shine, you're not hiding anymore. You're allowing the universe and the world around you to actually see the light that exists within you. However, we have to be realistic on this journey. There will be doubt that creeps in, but sometimes you need to tune into your intuition, to let that be your compass as you guide some of this doubt. Don't allow it to kind of weasel its way into your thinking like a little worm, and steal you of some of the magic. And, it's important, I think, to use discernment when we're on this journey as well, to really feel into, what is my body telling me here? Come into the body, if at all, questioning anything in your world, and see what's happening for you. Sometimes doubt and discernment will arise in order for us to take a little bit of a chill pill for a moment, to stop, smell the roses, and maybe redirect based on what our gut instinct is telling us, And keeping in mind, when we live in our sense of self-worth, we will mirror this to other people around us. So your belief in your magic helps other people to remember their own magic. And that's why I love my job. So every day I come in here, I get to sit here and help people remember that they're magic. That is like, what a gift to be doing this work. I just love it. So, I just would love for you, as we're finishing up this episode, to just sit and reflect and visualize and feel in your soul a moment in which you felt deeply magic in this world, and how did it feel in the body when you could feel your own magic? Or maybe it's about also sitting with someone else recognizing your magic. And sometimes what we can do is, and I know I'm a devil for this, dismissing other people, when they tell you that you're magic. But actually, what would it be like to actually sit and actually go, oh my God, maybe they're right. You don't need to dismiss this in your life. It's nice to actually sit with that and then begin to actually truly believe in yourself and believe what people are telling you when they're telling you these wonderful things, you know? So have a little think about those things and maybe challenge yourself to kind of identify where you're undervaluing yourself in your world. Are there certain relationships? Is there a certain job situation? Where are you undervaluing yourself, you know? And really start to kind of challenge yourself. What would shift if I truly believed in my worth and my own magic? What would shift in my life? And that will give you a really good indication. If you can identify where shifts might occur, you're basically highlighting the areas of your life where potentially you're undervaluing yourself, you know? So really, really important. And what I'd love for you to finish on today when you're listening to this is to just sit and recognize and just say to yourself this affirmation. Put your hand on your solar plexus, your hand on your heart, and just say to yourself, say these words: my worth is inherent. It lives inside me. My magic is real, and I am here to spread that magic. And I choose to live from this place of inner truth that exists within me. So, with love from my beautiful, magical heart to yours, I'll chat to you in 2 weeks, my loves. It's Dr. Tony.